Hi guys, welcome to my quick tutorial on SVG animation. We will cover what SVG looks like in HTML, why would you want to use it, how to make it, export it, style it later on in the DOM, and how to animate it. Now you will need to know the basics of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, but we will be using GSAP, which is a library from Greensock, and it is very easy to use. So don't worry, even if you're not that very close with JavaScript programming, you will quickly get a grip on GSAP. Trust me, as I said, it's very easy to use and it's pretty awesome. So why would you even want to use SVG? Well, it's scalable for responsive. Even if you zoom in on the SVG image, it still looks crystal clear. It's clear on any display. It's less HTTP requests to handle. It's smaller file size. Of course, if you're responsible with it, it applies here, same as anywhere else. You know, if you can, sometimes it doesn't mean that you should. It is well supported. I will put the link down below to SVG support. It's not supported in IE8 yet, so you will have to make a fallback for that one. And the best part is it's animatable. Yay! That's why you're here, right? So here we have HTML markup. Now this is not the whole SVG markup, but I just wanted to show you how a circle or a path might look like. So up here we have a circle with an ID. Now this is very important. I will get back to this later on, how you name your layers. It has a stroke and a fill. Now you're probably familiar more with border and background, but when you're working with SVG, your border becomes a stroke and your background becomes a fill. We also have X position and Y position, and then the radius that draws the circle. So for example, if we have a circle like this with a border and a fill, and here we have the X and the Y position, and then the radius that draws the circle. But if you would have something like this, this wouldn't be named a circle, but an ellipse. And it would also have an X and Y position, but it would also have the X radius and the Y radius. And up here we have a path. Now this might look a bit scary, but don't worry, you don't need to know all of this right now. Basically these are just the coordinates of how a browser draws your SVG on the screen. All of the other things are pretty much the same. It has an ID, it has a fill. This one doesn't have a border, for example. Something like this, you know, a vector path. Let's give it a fill, no border. Something like this would look like this in your HTML markup. Now in your SVG design, you might also have something like linear gradient or Gaussian blur or shadows, and all of that is also written in the markup. But for now, we will only be working with the basic elements, so you don't need to know all of it. So here I made a simple image with basic circle and path elements. Now don't judge, I know it's not the start of the evening, but I hope it will do. So here we have a circle and then a vector path that represents a mountain, and then the I-stop is also a vector path. Now it is very important of how you layer your elements on top of each other, because the way you layer them here, they will also be layered in the markup. Now you can actually style a lot of properties in the CSS with just reaching into the DOM and getting your element. You can change like a fill, border. You can style a lot of things, but make sure that you position them the way you want them to be positioned. Of course, when you will be making more complex animations and also more complex images, make sure that you group them together. Make sure that you actually already know what will you be animating and how will you be animating it, so you can prepare your SVG image for it. Now, one of the important things I also have to mention, and I actually mentioned it before with the ID that I show you in the markup, how you name your elements here on the side. I don't know, I'm using Sketch, you might be using Illustrator or anything else, but basically you can name your elements in any program you're using. So for example, this is the primary name of an oval, but I'm gonna name it background. and when my image will be translated into HTML markup, this circle will have the ID of a background, and that's how I will find it. And for example, here I have a hidden small circle. I'm gonna push it forward so you can see it. It's sort of like the sun, and we will animate it. And I'm gonna hide it now behind the mountain, but still on top of the background, because we will be animating it so that it sort of grows and expands like the sun coming from the mountain. And we won't be animating mountains and ice tops, so I'm just gonna leave this as a pass because I won't need to find it later on. But this little oval that's hidden, it's gonna be named sun. We can also add a bit of a text. Text is also animatable. It does have its own specialties. I might do a separate tutorial on animating SVG text. Sometimes it doesn't behave the same as other elements, but we will be animating it, so I will show you just simple things that you can do with animating text, and we won't be needing all of this now. Okay, so here we have our image with the names. You don't need to name your text because it will be very obvious. It will be very easy to find it, even if you will have very, very big markup. Don't worry, you can easily find the text, so you don't need to name your text. But we will group them together. I don't know, let's just say image or whatever. Now, next, what you need to do is export your image. You have to export it as an SVG. Now I'm using Sketch, so all I need to do is choose the format I'm exporting it, so choose SVG, and it will be saved as whatever you name it, .svg. Now there are different ways you can get to an SVG markup. I will show you two ways. One way is to open your image with whatever tool you're using. I'm using TextMate, but you might be using Sublime or Notepad, it doesn't matter. This is how you get to your markup. Now, it doesn't look like much here because it's still not saved as an HTML, but you can see some of the parts that are familiar to you. I talked about the circle before and a path. So basically, this is the image that we made in the HTML SVG markup. There are a couple of online tools you can use to help with your SVGs. I usually use this one. It's from Peter Collingridge, and you can use an SVG editor or SVG optimizer. I usually use SVG editor, and all you have to do is upload your file. There you go, and you will see the result on the right side. This is what we made. Now you can do a couple of stuff with it here. Check this out. Don't remove the IDs. And if you press output, here is your markup. You just copy paste it if you need this. There is also Jake Archibald's SVG optimizer, and you just simply pass the markup, and you can see this is the image that we made. And on the right side, you can optimize it however you want it. Don't clean IDs. This is very important. Don't clean them. I was talking about that before, how you actually need them to find your elements. So don't clean them. You can use whichever you want. I usually use this one from Peter Collingridge because it's just the first one that I found and I'm used to it. But whatever works for you. So now I have my TextMate open. I actually already prepared everything, from the HTML and the CSS and also the JavaScript part. I will not be showing you this. So right here I have my HTML. As I said, it's already prepared with the document type, the head, and the script and everything. So we will be opening our image and copy pasting this in your HTML. Now I'm gonna isolate it a bit so you will see what your SVG actually is. Yeah, it's from here to here. Now you don't need all these parts, as I said before. You can optimize it with the SVG optimizers, but I'm just gonna show you right here. For example, you have this created with Sketch and the depth and everything. You can remove this. Sometimes you will also have a comment. You can remove the comment. You don't need this. This is a comment. So now we will open this in our browser. And right now it looks like this. It's just the way we made it. It's scalable. Yay! It's still crystal clear. All right. Right now we have a width and a height. Now I'm gonna remove this. As I mentioned before, it doesn't matter how big you make it because you can actually change all of it. And I rather remove the width and the height. I don't want it. I don't want it fixed. That's also very good for making responsive images, responsive SVGs. Now, when you remove the width and the height, save it. Your SVG will take up 100% of the space, but you can easily control that. You can put it. You can define your own width and height on your SVG. I usually use percentages. And we can also remove this. Sorry. There we go. Now I'm gonna put my SVG a class name. I'm just gonna put it in SVG, and I can style it. Close this and open CSS. Let's say 20%. Reopen it and ta-da! So I want to show you. Oh, there we go. What's actually happening? This is the space that your SVG takes up. Now, if you're doing animations with an element that sort of like goes outside your image, you will need to put your visibility actually overflown to visible, or you can set the padding a little bit bigger so that any element that goes outside this actually stays visible. Oh yeah, and this is something I forgot to mention before with this title element. If you hover the image, it will be shown actually here. So sometimes that can get a bit of annoying. And if you want to remove it, you just simply remove the title from here and it will be gone. There we go. Now I've styled our SVG a little bit more so it's in the middle and it's a little bit more visible. Here we go. Maybe just make it 25%. There we go. So here comes the fun part. Animating it. Okay, so do you remember that we gave names in Sketch? Well, here we have it. This is the ID of a background. So we know that this circle is our background and that this circle is, you know, the sun that's hidden behind the mountains. And I'm gonna put it a class name because I usually I'm used to animating it with class names. So background and sun. And here we have our text. It's quite visible. And we will also give it a class name of text. So now I'm going to open my JavaScript. I already have everything prepared. This is where I included their online version, but you can check out their site on GreenSock. So basically everything you need on using the GSAP is right here. Check out their site. It's, as I said, it's really and it's pretty awesome. So don't hold back on it. Okay, let's go to JavaScript. I'm just gonna paste in my code. Basically, this is streammax.to. We apply it to the element, our class now is sun, for 3 seconds. This is the amount. And we're gonna scale it for 3.1. And then we're gonna move it on the X for minus 50. And on the Y position for minus 300. And you will see what that does. And this is sort of the easing, you know, the ease in, is out. And this is for animating the text. It's tweenmax.to. Actually, we're gonna make this from. So it's gonna appear from opacity 0 to where it is now. We're applying it to the text for the same amount of time as the sun, and also we have the same powering. Now let's see what this does. Voila! Again. And you can do a lot of different stuff with GSAP. You know, you might be rotating it, you might want to scale it, you know, you can do whatever you want to. Now there's one more thing I want to show you, is how to actually style your SVG after you've made it in Sketch, and then you sort of realize, okay, you don't like this color, you don't want this background, you don't want this border. So basically you can just go into the CSS, and for example we change the color of the sun. Remember, it's the fill. There we go. And not only in CSS, but you can go to your markup and you find the element you want to change. For example, we have a background, and this background has a fill, and we can change it like this. There we go. Okay, but now we can't see the text, so we gotta fix that too. Let's say you can change the fill, or you can change the border, whatever you like. There we go. And you can actually change the text itself. So for example, we have we love climbing, and then I can change it to I love climbing, if you don't like it. There we go. Okay, so that's it for this really short tutorial on SVG animation. Now there's way more things that you can do when animating SVGs, a lot more exciting and more complex stuff. You can make standalone animations, or you can use it for user interaction, you know, just a lot of things you can do with it. Now I will be making more tutorials on SVG animation. Hopefully some of it will be helpful, and it will encourage more developers to use SVGs in websites, because it's just really awesome. I don't know, I might even do a separate video on why you should use SVGs. And this is my first tutorial video ever. Actually, the first time I'm hearing my voice in a video like this, and I'm trying really hard not to burn it, bury it, and pour it with acid, so please be nice. If you have any questions regarding SVG animations, just leave them in the comments below. I will try and respond or make a tutorial video about it. And English is also not my native language, so I apologize if there are any mispronunciations or mistakes. And thank you so much for watching. See you next time. Or you will hear me next time. Okay.